So, Claire Obscure, Expedition 33. Game of the year, huh? It's been nearly a year since it released and everyone still won't shut up about it. Revolutionized turn-based RPGs, or so I'm told. Well, I finally got around to playing it and I think it's best to set some groundwork first. Gustav has been sent to die. 67... Many years ago, a cataclysm tore the city of Lumiere in two, leaving half of the city stranded at sea. Since that day, a monolith towered above the horizon, emblazoning the number 100 in luminescent golden light. The Lumierians sent a team to investigate the monolith, but only one survived the journey to the continent. A year later, a mysterious being known only as the Paintress appeared, erasing the number on the monolith and etching a new number, 99, before falling into a deep slumber. The Lumierians were puzzled as the years went by and the number of the monolith ticked down with the annual waking of the Paintress. That is, until the elderly began to dissipate into a gust of rose petals. It was then when the people of Lumiere realized that the monolith was a doomsday clock, taking the life of those whose age matched the number that overlooked the torn city. This event, where the Paintress would awaken from her slumber and take away those unlucky few, would come to be known as the Gamage. Lumiere sent expeditions to find and stop the Paintress, but none have been successful. The main continent Lumiere split from is now a strange foreign land, twisted beyond recognition and filled with beings known as Nevrons. We find ourselves as Gustav on the day of the Gamage. He volunteered to participate in the next expedition. He, in fact, is a highly renowned engineer in the fractured city, helping repair their food supply as well as strengthening their defenses from Nevrons. He has developed a device known as the Lumiere Converter, which allows its user to harness the life essence of the world known as Chroma, an ability that would hopefully destroy the barrier around the monolith and allow Expedition 33 to put an end to the Paintress. As he prepares to set out on his expedition, he reconciles with his former lover, Sophie. Feelings obviously linger, but their split was mutual, considering that Sophie did not want to birth children in a world with no certain future. The very least Gustav could do was be there for her on the day of her Gamage. And as the sun rises, they stand hand in hand on the harbour, watching as the Paintress approaches the monolith. Damn, it sucks how this scene ends up meaning nothing, huh? Like, everybody on the internet cried over the intro of this game and it gets hucked out of the window by the time the third act... Oh, sorry, that was my fuck Ubisoft alarm that plays at random intervals. It reminds me that Expedition 33 is actually Game of the Year because it comes from former Ubisoft employees, and Ubisoft fucking sucks. It was made in case I get too critical of the game. Gustav himself seems to not be anything special. He's in his 30s, he's 140 pounds soaking wet, he looks like he hasn't showered in a week, and he can cut himself in half and walk around on his hands at will, yet it is when you delve deeper into his overall importance in the story where his intricacies begin to... Who the fuck is this? Where's Gustav? What happened to Gustav?
You killed off Gustav in the first act? The first act? You killed off Gustav? In the first act? The first act? Are you fucking serious? Why would you do that?
Whether it be his early death or his lack of importance in the latter half of the game, many tend to forget how integral Gustav's presence was to the story of Expedition 33. By this point in the game, many had given up hope on ever defeating the Paintress. Most of the volunteers on the expedition did so due to a sense of duty, wanting to prove themselves worthy or just chasing one last thrill before they are vanquished. But Gustav lived under the reign of the Paintress and dealt with its consequences. Gustav was Lumiere personified. He was the main character, I don't care if you could switch characters in the overworld, everything about the narrative suggested that Gustav was the protagonist of this game. Of course I know now it is technically Mael, but if you were gonna do that all along, why not make us play as Mael? Why even bother introducing the story through Gustav when you know he isn't going to play a critical role in the story? By replacing Gustav with Verso, the emotional underbelly of Expedition 33 is swept out from under the player, leading to Sandfall Interactive having to substitute the plot with a story that is so incredibly on the nose with its messaging that it becomes nauseating. The game goes from being a story that explores grief to being a story about grief, and every character has to tell you that they are grieving and you have to help them with their grief. Without Gustav, you're forced to view the story through the lens of two Desonder family members. It's pronounced Desonder, I think. One who doesn't really have an active relationship with the people of Lumiere, and the other who has a switch flip in her mind the moment she found out her true origins. Both are aware that the world they live in is fake, and their philosophies are motivated purely by their relationship with their family. The world has shrunken down to the inside of this mansion, and everything has to tie back to the same 5 people. Any other questions that arise from this are met with shrugs and mumblings of, wait till the next clear obscure title. They are so proud of the fact that they intend for this game to be the start of this multimedia universe when it really feels like that failed dark cinematic universe with its constant panhandling for players to care about their totally epic lore regarding, let's see here, the writers. You can almost hear the sound of the developers huffing their own farts with, fuck Ubisoft! Fuck Ubisoft! Fuck the rabbits. Fuck the French rabbits. Fuck, the assassin. The vibes are just off with Verso in your party. Using Gustav as the central point of view meant that the audience was being introduced to the world at the same time as the main character, which makes sense because it is an expedition. It's in the title of the game. You are exploring uncharted land. That feeling is lost when you take the naturally inquisitive character out of the story and replace him with someone who has a been there, done that attitude. It's not inspiring when you finally complete a 30-minute boss battle against a giant dragon and the first thing you hear is, "Thank goodness we took care of that thing. It's been kicking me bloody ass for well over a decade now." Reaching a checkpoint felt like you were actually making progress on your journey to the monolith, but with Verso it more or less feels like you're trying to collect all the puzzle pieces together to see what happened to the other expeditions. Gustav had stakes in the story. He lost his lover to the Gamage. He's the leading engineer for the city of Lumiere. He invented the weapon that would defeat the Paintress once and for all. He kept a journal for the apprentices, bro. He promised them. For those who come after and all that. Why does Verso want to stop the Gamage? He's sick of being immortal. Oh, what a compelling character. The inciting incident of this story is one of the villains randomly going, "Oh, I hate my life," and pissing off to the continent. I expected there to be a twist, that Verso was this future version of Gustav, that Renoir and the Paintress were turning the expeditioners into Nevrons, and Verso was this human Nevron hybrid version of Gustav. I don't know, something. But the twist never came. Time marched on, and the main character of the game became forgotten about. There's this one scene where Verso tells Mael that he could have intervened and prevented Renoir from killing Gustav, but chose not to because Mael wouldn't want to kill the Paintress if she knew that doing so would Gamage Gustav, and Mael is just like, No joke, this is the last time Gustav is mentioned in the game until when he appears in one of the epilogues as a background character. This is the main character of the game and no one gives a shit about the fact he died. Speaking of plot twists, do you want to know the big plot twist of Expedition 33? That the entirety of the game has taken place inside of a painting that is owned by a 17th century French family. How the fuck do you pronounce this again? The Desonder family possesses the ability to create immersive worlds inside of their interdimensional canvases. When their son Verso is killed in an arson attack caused by a rival gang, the mother Aline delves into one of her son's canvases and creates the fictional city of Lumiere to live with her family and be reunited with her son. The father Renoir attempts to rid the paintings, thus causing the fracture and adopting the moniker of the curator to assist the expedition with defeating the Paintress, but also he is the one that is deleting the Lumiereans, and the Paintress and the Gamage were created to prevent Renoir from destroying Lumiere. I can't be the only one who thinks this story makes absolutely no fucking sense, right? First off, we never know why Renoir and Aline create paintings. We learn everything about the process of painting except why they do it. The Descendre family seemingly have no real motive to create these living pieces of work until Verso died. The paintings appear to be made for no one else but themselves. I know that escapism is supposed to be a major theme in this game, but what exactly were they escaping from before their child died? You can't expect audiences to care about your new revelation when the new setting is so hilariously jarring and low in stakes. It's not "it was all a dream" per se, but it certainly feels like it with how much tonal whiplash you get from it. Probably because the reveal shows that all the conflict doesn't stem from the world itself and instead revolves around family drama of all things. One moment you're fighting to prevent the destruction of the entire world, and the next your sister comes up to you and says, "Oh, mum and dad are fighting in the fucking divorce painting again." I'm unsure as to why the game tries so hard to guilt trip the player into thinking that this world is profound and orphic when not even the family who paints said worlds give two shits about it. They'd just be allowing their kids to do whatever with these things. If I had the ability to create sentient worlds, I wouldn't allow my children to go anywhere near the things. Children are disturbed little bastards, man. You do not want to know what their minds venture to. It is abundantly clear that these canvases are merely a vehicle for the story to relay their core theme of grief. But even so, paintings are a terrible use of allegory. Aline created the humans who live in Lumiere, but only so she can have an appropriate setting to live with her painted family. Why are the people of Lumiere sentient? How are they sentient? Are their lives based on the experiences of the painter in the same way a novel stems from the experiences of a writer? What made CL attempt suicide that night? Does she possess free will, or was this adapted from an element of Aline's conscious or a fragment of her memories in the same way a dream would? Are paintings created by the paintress not generated by her imagination? Monoko, for example, was created by Verso in his painting as a fictional depiction of his pet dog Monoko III. The revelation that Monoko the Gestural was based on Monoko the dog completely recontextualizes his character, dialogue, and relationships. So if Monoko is shown to be outwardly influenced by his painter, are we seriously supposed to believe that everybody else inside the canvas are just autonomous beings with no underlying purpose in their existence? Whether the citizens of Lumiere are real is something the player asks themselves, but it isn't something that the game asks the player. Like it or not, stories have a meaning, music has a meaning, art has a meaning, but in Expedition 33 they treat art as if it is something that is created on a whim only to appease yourself, which makes the Descendre family look like a bunch of 11-year-olds with unrestricted access to DeviantArt posting their self-inserts. Lumiere was created with no other purpose but to just be a stand-in for Paris, but with Verso alive. Half the setting is only meant to be a lazy imitation of the real world, and the other half are the manifestations of a snot-nosed child. Possessing the ability to create entire universes and doing menial shit like this makes you wonder why they even have this power to begin with. This is a rhetorical question, by the way. I couldn't care less about a legitimate lore explanation. So, what drives the characters of Expedition 33? Grief is supposed to be the primary motif, but it doesn't necessarily drive a majority of our player characters. The Descendre family is driven by grief, but it is used to shape the world rather than actually drive the conflict, mostly since the conflict evaporates the moment we find out about its existence. So if the conflict is revealed as irrelevant and the world is considered worthless, no one would be particularly that interested in what the narrative has to offer. Who cares about the world in this painting? Lune doesn't care. She sits there and does nothing. Literally. CL doesn't care. Verso doesn't care. Monoko doesn't care. Maëlle doesn't care. As a matter of fact, who even is Maëlle? She's Alicia now. That's how little she cares about Lumiere. Fuck my old life. Fuck the orphans. Fuck Gustav. Who even is Gustav? I've never thought about him throughout the entirety of the third act. There was one character who actually cared about the world that the game takes place in, and he was killed off before the main conflict even began. When I started writing this, me being mad about the game killing off Gustav was just supposed to be sour grapes since I was definitely planning to go as him for Halloween, but the more I think about it, the more I believe that the narrative of Expedition 33 doesn't work that well without him. In Expedition 33, you want what it says on the box. You want to defeat the Paintress and save Lumiere. But the thing is that instead of building around that anticipation, the game uses this premise as a way to get the audience to check out the Bible for their upcoming film franchise in the same way a door-to-door salesman tries to use the guise of vacuum cleaners in order for you to start selling shares of gold. Or is that just me? The conflict of Clair Obscur is Expedition 33 fighting for their existence against a being that looks to rid them from their world. If you wanted to pull the bait and switch by introducing the concept of paintings and the Descendre family, then fine, the conflict could still work. But with the death of Gustav, it felt as if the expedition died along with him because no other character is willing to address the main conflict in the slightest, and thus it is swiftly ignored to make way for a bunch of Criterion Collection pastiche. No amount of pretty visuals and difficult boss fights can distract me from the fact that, at least to me, the ending is convoluted, inconsequential, and completely ungratifying. Yeah, fuck Ubisoft. Am I upset that Expedition 33 won Game of the Year? No, I couldn't give less of a rat's ass about Game Awards. But being the critical, commercial, and cultural success that it was, this game made me ask myself a question. What motivates the player to complete a game if the characters aren't motivated? Players can put down a title for a myriad of reasons. Uninspired gameplay, repetitive missions, annoying characters, botched mechanics, awful dialogue, horrendous bugs, disgustingly unethical business practices. Sometimes certain plot revelations can completely dissuade someone from continuing. In my last video, I covered a game that had an ending that was so bad that some players simply refused to participate and turned off the console without even reaching the credits. But if a game gets everything right and is firing on all cylinders, does the story even matter, really? Who cares if the secret boss is just Clear's imaginary boyfriend? He looks cool and his boss fight ruled. Isn't that all that matters? If Sans just showed up randomly in Undertale and fought you completely stripped of any context, he would still be a cultural phenomenon based purely on how iconic his boss fight was. As good as the game was, Expedition 33 still felt like a demo reel or a pitch for executives to go, imagine what else we can do with this engine, imagine the spin-offs, imagine all the 6-episode Apple TV series we can make from this. Even with all the letterboxed cutscenes and big budget voice roles, it doesn't feel as if Sandfall Interactive predicates itself with making the story of Clair Obscur the heliocentric focus of their game, but rather the world. The ending of Expedition 33, where the player must choose to either destroy or save the canvas, is mostly carried by the legwork done by the player to analyze the moral conundrums that rise from these decisions, since the characters do not. You, the player, have to evaluate the effect this decision has on the world, since the two main characters, Mael and Verso, do not. You, the player, are left to evaluate whether the people of Lumiere are real, even though none of its citizens are really that opinionated on the matter. You are put into the shoes of Gustav, but Gustav is dead. Does the player actually care? Should the player care? If the next installment of the franchise is just going to follow some other family with some other painting, then why should we care? Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was never about Expedition 33. It was about Clair Obscur. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't know, go read Animal Man instead or something.